Tonight is the Yortzeit of the Holy Lion, the Arizal, whose soul illuminated the Jews of Tzfat, and from them, ultimately, all of the great rabbis and students of all Jews for all times until Mashiach comes. The Ari died at a very, very young age, and the sum total of his teachings in Tzfat were approximately a year and a half. And yet, in that time, the Ari transformed the whole way that prayer and meditation on mystical concepts would be from that moment on. It changed radically. Those who are familiar with some of the meditative processes of many of the great Rishonim and the methods that they used, and then look at the writings of the Ari, see the vast chasm between the Ari and those who preceded him. The Ari was said to be the greatest Kabbalist since Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar. And it is the Ari who promoted the concept that is discussed quite often as the cornerstone of Lurianic Kabbalah. It's called the Tzimtzum, the contraction. But I wish to focus on a couple of points that need to be said, and I'm using the Yortzeit of the Ari to say them. What exactly the Ari meant by some of his concepts became a matter of controversy one or two generations after the passing of the Ari. The Mishnas Chasidim and the Shomrei Emunim disagree. These were 16th century authors. They were students of the Ari, and they both are great Kabbalists, and they had divergent opinions regarding what exactly the concept of Tzimtzum was. Now, the word Tzimtzum means a contraction, a limitation, a condensation, if you will, concentration. But how do you say concentration or condensation with God? And you really can't say that, because God is not a material that can be condensed and limited. God is not a thing. And so, the question, what exactly does the Tzimtzum in God's light mean, is a matter of controversy. But it is the cornerstone of the Ari's Kabbalah, that God filled all the worlds with all of God's infinite light, and there was no place for anything else other than God. And in order to allow for an existence outside of God, God had to condense or contract his light, his infinite light, to a point. And the question is whether this condensation of light affects God himself, or whether it only affects his light, and whether it's meant to be taken simply or not simply. There are four variables in that discussion. Now, these concepts are very, very difficult concepts. I know because I've read about them for many, many years, and spent many, many hundreds of hours thinking about the concepts. I noticed a website called Daas Torah, in which the person who is the moderator brings down different people giving their opinions, including an almost verbatim discussion of Rabbi David Berger from his vicious attack on the Chabad community, and I won't even give honor to his book. I have the book in his possession, I've read his book, and I know his ideas. let me just tell the viewer the following. The concepts of the Ari were argued about in the 16th century, the 17th century, and continued to be argued about in the 18th century between very, very great Jews. The fact that the Vilna Goyen held one opinion, which was like the Mishnah's Chassidim, and the Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya, held like the Shomrei Emunim, does not diminish the stature of either one or the greatness of either one. Who is right, ultimately, is a question for Kabbalists, not for people on a blog. People like David Berger, who may be very, very educated in Jewish history and similar disciplines, have no place in discussing concepts that they have proven over and over again to not understand. And I say this with the full understanding and the knowledge about whom I speak. I tried engaging David Berger in an argument, in a debate, over his vicious attacks in the school newspaper of Yeshiva University. He did not have the decency to respond to me. And the reason he has no decency to respond to me is because he's afraid of someone who might know a little bit more than he does on certain topics. And in these areas, I do know a little bit more than he does. And anyone who quotes David Berger as a source, or quotes the ban of the Vilna Goyen on the Chassidim that was issued in 1773 or 1772, and the subsequent bans that he made, is not doing service to the Jewish people. You're only confusing people. The reason for that is as follows. The Groz, the Vilna Goyen's own students, did not all agree with the Vilna Goyen. The fact is that in the Nefesh HaChaim, Reb Chaim Volozhner tries to backtrack and say that the Vilna Goyen was not in an extreme position. He was really in a more conciliatory position with regards to the concept of tzimtzum. The Leshem, who is also a student, or a student of the Vilna Goyen, says no, the Vilna Goyen did hold this extreme position. That being said, anyone who's familiar with the writings of the Kabbalists know that the vast majority of the Kabbalists did not agree with the Vilna Goyen. That is a fact. Most agreed that tzimtzum cannot be considered to be in its simple form, its simple expression. God simply does not become contracted. And therefore the question is only to what degree there is a tzimtzum. Is the tzimtzum only outward appearances for God? Is it only in God's light? And then is it meant to be taken literally or figuratively? Now, these are high concepts, require a great deal of thought and a great deal of understanding as to what the consequences of these ideas might be. It is not for a public forum for people to go online and to see certain writings that are disparaging of other great people whom they do not understand. And I repeat this very, very clearly. David Berger and the entire cadre of people on the Daas Torah blog do not understand the concepts at all, have no idea about it. And because they have no idea about it, write about it as silly little children. Yes, they quote certain people, and the people that they quote are also not people that you can quote. So they say, but we quote the Rebbe. You may quote the Rebbe, but I guarantee you that if you and I were studying those same words together in their original form, you would understand them totally differently than you are expressing them, or that some people might be expressing and teaching them. And this was the core of my argument with David Berger when I tried to challenge him to a debate on the YU commentary.